call it thinking within the box being the op-ed columns of our nation's newspapers. Recently, some of those opinions have been just a little more than eye-popping, especially those from mainstream papers like the New York Times and USA Today. Starting with this USA Today op-ed by Jerome Corsi, advocating that teachers carry weapons. It's not that his opinion is so out of left field, but his affiliation is.
If you're not on board with a hard left Hillary Clinton identity politics, if you don't align with them, well, then you're a conspiracy theorist nutcase.
Which Corsi is. He heads the Washington bureau of Alex Jones' InfoWars, something the paper did not initially mention. And New York Times editorial page editor James Bennett has been on the defensive. First for hiring climate change skeptic Bret Stephens, then for giving Bari Weiss a forum. Weiss recently referred to California-born figure skater Mirai Nagasu as an immigrant. And the day before the Parkland, Florida shootings, Bennett gave discredited gun advocate John Lott an opportunity to spread his disinformation.
There's nothing unique about these AR-15s. They're the same as a semi-automatic hunting rifle.
In a memo to staff, Bennett defended his decisions, writing, "We're supposed to assure the free exercise of a sound conscience," which I guess means all views are fit to print, even if they're wingnuts. I give him some credit for reaching out here because there's been a sameness to the editorial pages of the New York Times over the decades, as there has been with the Washington Post. Not so much USA Today. They've had a range over the years, but I give him credit for at least trying something.
I think for USA Today, there's really no excuse for giving Jerome Corsi any air at all. You were kind to him. He was a big birther.
Yeah,
he was a 9/11 truther.
Yeah.
The government was behind it in some sort of way. He is a nutty guy who should not be given, the air to do this. And for the USA Today to just publish him without mentioning that he works for InfoWars.
Well, they did later, but they didn't do it.
But they didn't at a publication is just irresponsible. For the Times, I think it's a little bit different because the Times is a unique situation. They're making all their money now from readers subscribing to the Times through digital subscriptions. They have over 2 million digital subscribers. And those are disproportionately liberal people. And those folks feel a sense of ownership over the Times' content that advertisers didn't, to be frank. And they are, part of this is defensiveness against any conservative views being aired. But I think James Bennett has made mistakes on both the left and the right.
Well, I think there are two separate issues that he's faced. One is that you have to present credible opinions from credible people that are well-reasoned, that are backed up by fact, and that's where occasionally some of the opinions he's brought in have fallen short. On the other hand, I think you're right. There are people who, and I think this is a growing trend of people who cannot countenance, for whatever reason, an opinion that they don't agree with, and they don't want to see it in their perceived forum. And so you'll publish something, and the Twitter people will come out and say, how dare you even present this idea and this person? And that's what James Bennett, I think, has to fight against and not be defensive about and kind of hold the line and say, look, we're doing what we're doing for a good reason.
Okay, two things going on here. First of all, when you look at what a large news organization like the Times or USA can bring value to, it's expensive original reporting. And they have done a pretty good job of maintaining their reputation for doing that. But when you get to the opinion pages, there isn't really any built-in reason that the opinion pages of the New York Times are going to be any more valuable to people than going out on the Internet and finding a number of different opinions that are more compatible with them. So I think that becomes a real challenge. What is the real value that a great newspaper can bring to the opinion space as opposed to the news space? I think that's a hard question to answer, and I think that's the question that James Bennett is trying to answer right now.
Well, let me answer it for him. Because you, again, need some credentialed folks, to your point, Joanna, so that I can fundamentally disagree with you, but you can lay out your argument in a way that I can follow and see where it came from, the depth of it, that you know something, that you're bringing something to it.
And you
if we both look outside, this is my example, and we both see a tree, and we have fundamentally different opinions about whether there should be a tree, that's one thing. It's the InfoWars people who look outside and see no tree and are giving me an opinion that I have a problem with.
The tree was born in Kenya.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, or the tree is born in Kenya. Stop it. Get James Bennett. You're the New York Times. You can get anybody you want. What is with these crappy people you've brought on that have no business being on the pages? And I am insulted that you would test out your stuff with people who absolutely have nothing to say in a credible way. Now, bring the credibility. I can fuss and be mad about their opinion, but I would like to be appreciative of how they structured their argument.
All right.